Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Advanson. Welcome you guys to another episode of the DREAMERSPRO show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, and entertainment. And we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. So let's get straight into this topic here. So this is a story that's been going pretty viral over the last 24 hours or so, 12 to 24 hours. And it features Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics, right? Now, as you guys know, the Boston Celtics had a disappointing end to their postseason run. I think they were the first or second, the second seed in the Eastern Conference. But they ultimately ended up going out of the first round, and it was very disappointing, right? I think at various points, Jason Tatum returned, if my memory serves me right. I didn't really watch too many Eastern Conference series. But at the end of that, Jaylen Brown came out and said this was his best season and all of that, blah, 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 blah. So Stephen A. Smith took it upon himself to go on ESPN First Take and essentially make his feelings known about the comments that Jaylen Brown had made, right? So while all of this was happening in the background, Jaylen Brown had made some tweets or whatever it was towards Stephen A. Smith, like, I'll back down when you back down. I'll stop talking when you get off your show, or something like that, right? So Jaylen Brown then goes on his show or his stream, I don't know what it's called, and he starts going at Stephen A. Smith, man, in a way that, to be honest with you, doesn't surprise me whatsoever, because everybody's always calling out Stephen A. Smith. So what we want to do is we're going to play the video for you guys. I want you guys to listen to Jaylen Brown here, just, telling it like he sees it with Stephen A. Smith, and then we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to Jaylen Brown here.
Let's get into the good stuff. Last week, I had an exchange online with Stephen A., where he was vocal about what he thought I needed to do, and he also said some other things. So let's watch it.
That Jason Tatum hasn't appeared on Jaylen Brown's program.
Okay.
You know where Jason Tatum was? Right here on First Take.
Let's pause right there. What type of journalism is this? Jason Tatum hasn't been on my stream, and this is what we're talking about on First Take? What if JT just don't like being somewhere in an uncontrolled environment? Why are you doing journalism on me having guests on my stream? And this is a part of the reason why I started streaming. This is a part of the reason why people use the term clown, and it synchronizes with someone like Stephen A. Smith. Because this is what you're using your platform for. What are you talking about? Let's continue.
Jason Tatum. So in other words, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum showed up on First Take before he showed up on your damn show.
What does that have to do with anything? What? This is journalism? This is why I started streaming, chat. What does that have to do with basketball? What does that have to do with performance? What does that have to do with anything relative to like the game? You know what I mean? It doesn't. And this is where, why people call him out, because he uses his platform and his nature. And his nature can be, this causes issues.
And then this is stuff that just flying over your head? You think nobody notices that hasn't happened? You're saying it's the year that Jason Tatum was down with an Achilles tear is your favorite year? The year that Jason Tatum had to sit out, this closeout Game 7 because of the injury incurred in Game 6, that's your favorite year? The year that you lose 3-1. Of all the stars in the history of the Boston Celtics, you the only one because you were driving a bus. Ain't nobody pointing to Jason Tatum. He was sitting.
Right.
He was sitting. He was in street clothes. You the only one. The only star in the history of the Boston Celtics that ever lost a 3-1 lead and surrendered it, and that's your favorite year. Why? Because you and your teammates developed better chemistry and camaraderie? You understand what I'm saying? Because you overcame adversity?
See, this is where I gotta pause again. See, this is a narrative that he's creating. This is in journalism. This is him making his own opinion and formalizing it about what I had to say on his platform. And this is why, respectfully, a lot of people say, fuck Stephen A. Because this is the type of stuff he does and then he doesn't recognize it. But he's creating a narrative saying that the reason why I'm saying that I had my favorite season is because selfishly I had a best performing year. Not the fact that we outproved expectations, not the fact that everybody expected us to be nothing and we had to fight and we showed up and we competed every single day and we had to fight for every victory. Not the joy of watching our teammates grow, or not the joy of watching guys who are unproven start to solidify themselves as well through leadership, through chemistry. Like, he maybe now doesn't understand that because maybe he's never had to fight for nothing in his life. Maybe anytime adversity is hit, he's rolled over or he's gave in. So he thinks it's the same thing as somebody who has little to no expectation and they stood up and they made a name for themselves. He may not understand that concept, and that's why he's pushing his narrative. But once again, this is what Stephen A is using his platform for. Let's see what he finishes with.
What happens? What's the remedy? Given all these things you're pointing out, I'm with you. But that's why I brought up the whole trade thing again. What are you going to do about it?
I don't mind. But what I'm saying is the first order of business is that he needs to be quiet and like big.
Let me stop right there. Did he just say I needed to be quiet? Be quiet for who? Man, fuck Stephen A. Stephen A, Stephen B, Stephen C. My offer still stands. You want me to be quiet and stop streaming? Well, I want you to be quiet and get off these networks, because you're not using your platform to do real journalism. You're using your platform to use clickbait. You're using your platform to, let's go back and let's use example A. You talking about JT not coming on my stream, and this is the journalism that you're referring to.
Tatum hasn't appeared on Jaylen Brown's program. You know where Jason Tatum was? Right here on First Take. Jason Tatum. So in other words, Jaylen Brown.
He thought he ate with that one too. Like, right here on First Take. Man, nobody give a damn about no damn First Take. This is the reason why I started streaming in the first place. Did I want to be a streamer? No. But the media has gotten so bad, Chad. The media has gotten so goddamn bad where it's like, anytime you say anything as an athlete, it's going to be taken and pulled in different directions. We already seen the example of that. I know it's going to happen. That's just the world we live in. But at least now, because I have an obligation, like it's my job to speak to the media. Like it's in my contract. If I don't speak to the media, I will be fined. What did Marshawn Lynch say? Everybody know the famous quote, I'm here so I don't get fined. If you don't speak to the media as an athlete, you get fined. So I have a media responsibility. I have a media responsibility as well, just like anyone else, any other athlete. The only problem is that for me, I prefer to take matters into my own hands. I'd rather talk straight to you guys, straight to the people. You can see my reaction. You can see my thought process. I'm breaking down the film. I'm breaking down the game. I'm talking about the ins and outs of the NBA. I'm still fulfilling my media obligation, but I'm just not doing it in a traditional manner.
All right, cool. So you heard what Jaylen Brown had to say. What are my thoughts about this? Honestly, none of this surprises me whatsoever, man. I'm gonna keep it a bean with y'all. None of this surprises me whatsoever. Stephen A. Smith is constantly being called out by people across the spectrum, whether it be in the world of sports, whether it be in the world of politics. It just is what it is. And I think what has happened is Stephen A. definitely is an egomaniac, right? There's no doubt about it. And the more he's gone up, the more he's done better in his career, the more of an egomaniac he's become, right? That's the one thing. The second thing is this is an issue that Stephen A. Smith has had for pretty much his entire career, which is you've had athletes at time kind of going at him for planting narratives and saying things about certain people that kind of sticks with them. Then, of course, you have the backstory. And I think Jaylen Brown or went on Stephen A. Smith's show or they interviewed each other, something like that in the past, where Stephen A. was like, you know, people don't want to mess with Jaylen Brown because he's this, he's that. And then Jaylen Brown was like, then reveal your sources. Who are the people that are saying this? And of course, Stephen A. Smith said, I'm not going to reveal who my sources are and this and this and this. So this is something that's been happening in the background. And personally, I just think that Jaylen Brown has just finally had enough of Stephen A. Smith, man. You know, I think he's just had enough of the guy. He's pretty annoyed with the guy. He doesn't like how he pushes narratives. And this is something that Jaylen Brown is not breaking new ground here, right? He's not the first athlete to go at Stephen A. Smith. And he certainly won't be the last. But I knew when all of this was happening, I knew 100% for a fact that Stephen A. Smith was going to respond to this and use it as a moment to, you know, talk about himself on his show, whether it's ESPN First Take or his personal platform. And as it turns out, right before shooting this video, he did just that. I knew it. Stephen A. will never let an opportunity go where someone talks about him, especially someone that's noteworthy, and then he doesn't respond to it, because no matter what he says, he loves the attention. Do you know why? Because he responds to every little thing that is said about him. Every little thing. And we're gonna do a show on that as well. Catch you guys on the next show. Peace.